Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is Whatever for the 29th of July, 2018, and it's late in the evening, right? It's late in the evening, and I'm sitting here pondering the last 4 years. Now, we're coming up on 4 years of GamerGate, and I'm pretty sure if you know who I am, you know of GamerGate, and that's going to always be the case. That is always going to be how I am known. That's always going to be what I am connected to. And it's because of that I do feel somewhat protective over the name, because what people try to make it out to be, what it is always brought back up as, is always a false narrative. And I mean like a real false narrative. The type of thing that should it should be called out more often, but it's such a convenient straw man. It's such a convenient boogeyman that you just have to sit there and laugh, and also get a little bit angry, but mostly laugh. Mostly laugh. So what triggered this particular response, if you will, was I was watching a video about Rehire James Gunn that was put on, made by Movie Bob. Now, if you don't know who Movie Bob is, consider yourself like fucking lucky. This is a guy. He's a games critic, I guess. He's a movie critic, probably more true. Very much left-leaning, progressive ideology, which is, I have no problem with that. Bob and I actually share quite a bit politically. But God forbid ever have a conversation about it, because that would just end up turning into a fucking nightmare. But for the most part, we actually have a fair amount in tune politically. But to him, I am 100% the enemy. And to me, he's 100% a doofus. He's a useful idiot. And he, I think, partly knows that, but he doesn't care because he gets like $6,000 a month in Patreon. So fuck him. Yeah, I'm a little salty. I'll admit. Okay. I can be honest. I can admit that. I'm okay with that. Anyway, Bob put out about a 25-minute long video talking about the whole situation with James Gunn. Now, I'm familiar with this situation, as I have covered it multiple times. I even went through it on the last episode of the Whatever podcast. And he hit all the same points. He hit all the same points that I hit. He hit all the same major points that I was covering on multiple videos. And it wasn't until he got to like where he started to really try to assign blame to where we are right now, that I realized where this is going. And he did it. He had to do it. He brought it up a couple minutes into the video at first. I figured I'd give him one reference because it was going to happen regardless, right? But no, he mentioned GamerGate and ComicsGate, to be fair. But the two are connected maybe tangentially. But if you know anything about what's going on, like, you can almost understand why both exist. GamerGate ultimately was about ethics in video game journalism. ComicsGate is about trying to get social progressive activists out of comics that interject their own ideology into the scene and then punch down on customers when criticized. It also has a lot going on right now with the whole Star Wars situation. There's a lot going on in fandoms right now with this infection of social progressives and these SJWs. Now, some might look at that and go, Matt, you're ad homing. Okay, you're ad homing these people, and you're making this post to kind of like call out ad homs. Which, listen, I get it. Okay, that's not lost on me by any stretch. I understand it. At the same time, though, we were talking about this from the perspective of trying to fix an issue, fix a problem, right? We were coming at this from the perspective of like, hey guys, we noticed that like a lot of you are friends and like you all report on each other's stuff, but you don't properly disclose that you're friends. Can you do that? Can you do that, please? And the response back is, oh, fuck you. You're fucking fascist fuck. You're a piece of fucking shit. Maybe not so succinctly, but in a manner of speaking, that's what they did. They kept doing that shit. They kept fucking doing that all the time, right? Coming at it. Oh, these are just sexist, misogynistic nerds. They just want to tear down women, minorities, people of color. It's not true, man. Listen, just because you happen to be a woman or a minority or a person of color doesn't mean you're immune from criticism. It just doesn't. That's like such a shield to hide behind. It's true. I wish I had that shield. I don't have that shield. Anyway, no, listen, I don't even want to go down that path. The point is, Gamergate was that. Comicsgate is its own thing, trying to fight back against these people that turn a lot of criticism, even harsh criticism even, into this harassment campaign. And now I want to just kind of issue a point that yes, there are dicks in either category. There are dicks in both. Okay, I think anyone out there who was involved in Gamersgate or is currently involved in Comicsgate will acknowledge that 100% acknowledge that there are some bad faith actors that were contained within. The problem with that, though, is you don't know, and this is a truth, you don't know if these people are in fact on your side, working against you, or a third-party troll. And that was one of the things we learned about in Gamergate, was GNA, which is the Gay Nigger Association of America, coming out of Something Awful. Third-party trolls. 4chan played a big part in a lot of this shit. Third-party trolls who don't have a dog in this race, or in this fight, horse in this race, whatever the fucking analogy is. But that's a lot of what goes on. And unfortunately, you can't always explain that in a 280 character tweet, or at the time 140 characters. And even it is difficult to succinctly put that in the headline of a fucking article or of a fucking video, right? And oftentimes people just tend to overlook that fact, like movie Bob Chipman, because it fits their narrative. It does. It fits their narrative to claim that Gamergate and it's, I guess, spawned other gates, so to speak, are responsible for all the woes going on in fandoms. And he legitimately makes that claim later on in this fucking video. He legitimately makes that claim. Now, again, I agree with him on the whole James Gunn thing. Mike Cernovich and people involved with him, they were the ones that were spreading this around during Comic-Con, using the situation as a way to get James Gunn in a whole world of shit. Their mission was accomplished. All right. So we know that. But those guys, that group, is not associated with whatever currently is going on with Gamergate. Mike Cernovich hasn't talked about Gamergate for a long time. Mike Cernovich only came in towards the end of Gamergate as it was, as just juice for a lawyer. He validated a little bit of what's going on, saying he was a lawyer and people liked him, right? But then Mr. Lispy got weird and a lot of people just were turned off to him. And then he used, his pickup artist routines and all the tweets about like how not to be accused of rape after the fact, as well as everything he's done in regards to his own nootropics supply, which many people do out there argue that it is in fact his semen. I guess waste not, want not, right? Whatever. But the point is like, this is not an honest actor. He has his own motivations, but he hasn't been involved in the gaming scene in a long time. But people still want to, like Bob, they still want to attribute it to fucking Gamergate. It's not Bob. And I think deep down, you know that. I think deep down he knows. He knows that it's true. But then again, this is the guy who legitimately has a book where in it he retells a story about how his grandmother died, right? And instead of going to the funeral, he stayed home to play Super Mario Brothers 3 because that was his priority. Yeah, that's That's one thing. Never mind all of his tweets that essentially sum up he's a huge fan of eugenics, right? I'm not even kidding you too. I'm not even kidding you. If we're going to go back and reference old tweets, it's really funny to look at a collection of Bob's where he effectively basically pulls out like race realism, IQ tests needed for voting, and yeah, eugenics, arguing for eugenics, right? Because, not like we fought a war trying to stop that from happening a long ass time ago. Not like 6 million people died in some camps, right? Not like, what was it, like 12 million Russians died or some shit? I don't know. A lot of Russians fucking died. Let's be fair. Trying to stop this whole thing from happening. This is okay. A lot of people died. A lot of people died in very horrific ways. In order to put an end to that particular debate about eugenics and whether or not, creating the Aryan Brotherhood or the Aryan race would be something that would end up being a thing. But no, good old Bob Chipman, has a whole shitload of tweets, kind of alluding to that, by the way. Just to give you an idea about Bob. Bob's the guy that was like no bad tactics, right? Like that's the thing, like no bad tactics, only bad targets. Bob is the kind of guy he once referred to. I don't know. Ragging on Bob is not like the point of this, but I have one more thing I'd like to kind of point out here. Movie Bob Chipman and I are around the same age. Okay. It's like, I think like I'm in my mid 30s. I think he's in his late 30s, early 40s. I can't quite tell. I haven't been able to carbon date like the folds under his chin, but like, it's there. Him and I roughly around the same age. So we're 80s and 90s kids. I think the best way to describe it. So he once referred to the debate over video game censorship in the 90s, right? From Tipper Gore and Joe Lieberman, that whole moral panic over gaming, that whole big thing was basically like his own personal Vietnam, right? Like that was our like, I think our generation's Vietnam or some shit. He's made that like abundantly clear that he pretty much views that time period as like this, this Vietnam-esque era, fighting back against oppression from an independent in Tipper Gore, I guess. He was a kid playing Super Mario Brothers. He didn't know. It wasn't like some doe-eyed 18-year-old sent off to the fucking rice paddies of Da Nang, knee deep in the hoopla, keeping his socks dry, right? Keeping his ammo dry, making sure he's he's out there taking out Charlie, right? Like it wasn't like Bob sat there and did that shit. Fucking Jesus Christ, Bob. I get the sentiment, but at the same time, your words, they're so dumb. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. This is a dude. He's respected, by the way. He's not like he gets work. I'm so surprised at that. He's got a pretty diehard audience. I mean, they're idiots, but they're there. I do want to give Bob a little bit of credit, though. I do enjoy his movie reviews. I do. I think they're thorough. I think he has a good eye for it, and I will give him credit on that. When it comes to roughly anything else, mileage may vary on the opinion, and I'm not the only one to say that. And to be fair, people say a lot of that about me too. Like they like it when I talk about one thing. After that, it's all bullocks to them, So it's fine. But yeah. So this movie Bob Chipman and GamerGate. He's the thing is though, GamerGate's had it out for Bob and Bob's had it out for GamerGate. So I mean, him bringing it up as a hit thing makes a lot of sense. But he mentioned like he keeps trying to equate people who are in GamerGate as like the alt-right, which again, when like there was the political spectrum that political test that went around, and like most GamerGaters on Twitter took it, and pretty much the vast majority were like center left, we're all lefties, you know, and then calling them all alt-right is such a disingenuous term, but, you know, whatever. Because people like Mike Cernovich, who went into Gamergate kind of like Milo Yiannopoulos in order to build up some kind of army. And then when it no longer served their purposes, they fucked off. You know, but then we still catch the blame for I guess validating their existence, so to speak. I got no idea. I think many people in Gamergate have apologized for Milo Yiannopoulos on several occasions. And the same goes, I guess, with Cernovich. But they're their own actors. They're in this for like the conservative political gain. All right, people wanting ethics in video game journalism is not necessarily a partisan issue. Now, granted, there's like a Venn diagram here. Let's be realistic. There's a Venn fuck diagram, but at the same time, no, it's just not what you say it is, Bob. And you know, you can sit there and go, but the harassment campaigns, people were mounting harassment campaigns against me. It's because you're an asshole. Nothing to do with anything like that. It's because you literally punch down on critics. You take your marching orders from Anita Sarkeesian any day of the fucking week. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Right? I made a crack on Twitter earlier. I'm all like, I bet you Bob's waiting, dressed like Rambo from First Blood towards the end when he's completely lost it, just waiting for like the tweet from Anita Sarkeesian where he will then take up arms and storm Nintendo's home office in order to take it back from the quote unquote gamers. Although in his mind at this point, they're not gamers, they're Nazis. That's a kind of delusional mindset movie Bob Chipman has, in my opinion. But yeah, he goes on to say that it's not only, you know, the people who want ethics in games journalism, and they want social justice stories and stupid shit like that out of fucking comics. It's also the people out there who want to see the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. He legitimately brought up fucking the Zack Snyder cut, Release the Snyder Cut. Those guys, right? Calling them alt-right. Look, I would argue there's issues there, sure, yeah. I mean, like whoever the fuck this guy, you're gay. So whoever the fuck started the petition for Release the Snyder Cut, like got it up there. We're talking like 175,000 signatures. Okay, people want to see this fucking movie, and then this guy decides he wants to go and make a documentary about the movie. So he asks for like $4,000 in donations to do it. Problem with it is though, is that it just wouldn't work, right? The gear that he wanted, way more than $4,000, right? And everything else. Anyway, no one gave him the fucking money. I think he made like $600, right? And he got mad. He got mad. So he starts spamming, like every day, spamming updates on that petition, begging for money until people basically shout him the fuck down. And then he comes back with this wild tirade about feminists and Islam. And I mean, like, you know, listen, I would argue like that dude is got some far right leaning opinions. And again, people read the comments. No one's agreeing with them. Everyone's telling them to fuck off, right? They want to unsign the petition because he's making it about him and not making it about the mission to see the completed Zack Snyder journey here, right? The vision of Zack Snyder over the course of 3 films to finish out his trilogy, which is what people wanted. But to Bob, if you want anything that in his mind you don't feel entitled to, then you're just an alt-right Gamergate troll. Because not only that, he also brought up Kathleen Kennedy and Star Wars and tried saying that the movement to get her fired because she's a woman in power, also Gamergate, also all this shit. And I'm like, you stupid tumor. Like you vacuumous cavern of an individual. I don't even know if that fucking makes sense. Jesus Christ. Kathleen Kennedy has been running Lucasfilm for 6 years. She clearly no longer cares about Star Wars. This, I believe, is quite apparent. All right, this has kind of been looked at the way she's been treating everything. People have been asking for her to step down because they don't like the way she's been running the company. It has nothing to do with her being a woman. It has everything to do with her leadership ability and her inability to lead this franchise to prominence. at least in the eyes of some people who have every right to vocalize their displeasure with how things are going. But what it is Bob always focuses on the goddamn fucking third-party trolls, man, and never the actual argument. He can strawman it, which he did in this like 25-minute long video, right? He did. He brought it up. And it's just, it boggles my goddamn mind. It boggles my fucking mind that someone like him can be so fucking dense, right? I just wonder if like the only way to truly express it to him would be through like, could we phrase this like it's going to be a eugenics argument? Like a pro-eugenics argument? Could we use it as a comparison and see if that's a way to actually get him to like, you know, pay the fuck attention, or like maybe have some like, I don't know, decency and shit? I mean, I've made some jokes about Bob. Don't get me wrong. Him and I don't like each other. Clearly. But it's at the same time, man, like how do you sit there and like straight-face strawman people? Straight-face strawman like 4 movements that are all like maybe tangentially connected because they all deal with fandoms. But the Release the Snyder Cut has nothing to do with progressives in media. It has everything to do with like Warner Brothers not knowing how to handle Justice League. Some of those guys, they're a little cray. Don't get me wrong. They're a little over the top. But at the end of the fucking day, they just want to see a goddamn movie. And the Star Wars guys, they just don't like the direction shit's gone. Because The Last Jedi wasn't a good movie. That's it. That's it. But Bob, you got to basically label them like online alt-right terrorists. For some, is that just what gets you off? Is that the only way you can come at this point? You're just sitting there like, GamerGate, you know, is that it? While you're dreaming of just, you know, like perfect Bob Chipman, Anita Sarkeesian babies? Is that what's happening here? Jesus, dude. Like, seriously, man. You had a good argument. You had a good argument in that shit. I appreciated the Rehire James Gunn video. I did. But then you start fucking bringing up Gamergate. And it's just it doesn't make any goddamn sense. It doesn't make one lick of fucking sense to try to connect the two together. It doesn't. Cernovich is a cuck. Mr. Lispy. All right. You know, like he was an accused rapist who argued it down or pled down to a lesser crime, has an alimony from his ex-wife, has never actually practiced law from what I understand, and he is a troll who fucked up being on InfoWars. See how none of those things were related to Gamergate? It's because he was in and out of that thing faster than he probably was the chick that accused him of rape. So there's that. Jesus. You fucking people, man. You fucking, all you fucks too. It's all you fucks. Right or left in this regard, man. You want to just take your scalps. Blame who you can blame in the process. Never once actually looking at it from maybe a neutral perspective. I tell you, if I was ever in the same place as movie Bob Chipman, I would sit there. I would invite Bob to coffee. I would invite him out to coffee. I'd sit and say, hey, all right, let's discuss this shit. And I've done this before too. There's a guy that I met who, long time ago in LA, who moved to Oregon. I didn't know he was there. He's very SJW, like very left-leaning progressive. Him and I disagree on many factors. And we ended up reconnecting because he lived not far away from me, and we got coffee and we talked about Gamergate, a bunch of other things, and had a pleasant conversation. Because you can accomplish a lot when you're not flinging fucking shit at each other from across the goddamn internet, and I say that knowing full well what I've said in this fucking podcast. So the irony, my friends, is not in fact lost on me. Ha ha ha! Doesn't mean that it's right. Just saying it's not lost. But I'd have a conversation with Bob. I'd sit there, I'd talk to him. I'd be like, hey, stop lying. Like, the FBI investigated, found out, didn't do nothing. How does that make you feel? It won't matter to Bob, though, because there are no bad tactics, right? He doesn't care. I mean, he cares enough to make a 25-minute video talking about rehiring James Gunn. So there's that. And apparently I care enough to do a 25-minute podcast bitching about his 25-minute video. So we're all sorts of fucked right now, aren't we? We're all sorts of fucked. It's the world we live in. So I think at the end of this thing, which I will fully admit, I did not know how to pad out into nearly 30 minutes, but life finds a way. I think what we need to take away from this is the fact that somebody like Bob Chipman is so up his own ass with his own socially regressive pro-eugenics policies that it would take probably like another bombing of Hiroshima for him to even like take notice that he's an idiot. And I say that wanting that to never happen in terms of an atomic attack, nuclear bomb. I would just like Bob to like realize that he's not the good guy, right? I'd love for him to realize he's not the good guy, but he can't because he's like way, way, way out there. Now he might argue in return, "No, you're not the good guy." Which case I'd come back and say, like, I'm the one willing to have a conversation. You're the one that just wants to, ad hom everyone, claim 4 independent groups from one another are all part of the same alt-right conspiracy under a pro-Trump America. Okay, and I've already been accused of getting Trump elected as it is. So then that's not true. That's actually a thing, by the way. That actually happened. Zoe Quinn's book, she accuses me of starting GamerGate and accuses GamerGate of getting Trump elected. Therefore, by default, according to Zoe Quinn, I'm the reason why Donald Trump is currently the 45th president of the United States. So talk about a series of dominoes falling over for that to be a reality. However, listen, I will be perfectly honest with you. If that is in any way remotely true, and I had anything to do with Donald Trump getting elected, I'm not happy about that one damn bit. So when I say that like Bob and I share a lot of politics and whatnot, a lot of things we would agree on, that is definitely one of them. Okay? But fundamentally on other things, the answer to that is no. Oh, motherfucker, man. All right. So listen, I'm going to wrap this up because this was a venting. This is a cathartic little jaunt down into GamerGate memory lane. Here's the thing though. GamerGate, just at the end, GamerGate is it's not what many people think that it is. It's not a harassment campaign. It's not a campaign to run women out of gaming or STEM. It was seriously for ethics in video game journalism, because we've seen multiple instances of situations where journalists were writing about their friends and they weren't disclosing it. And they're all chummy with these people when I have no problem if they want to be friends. I care about the ethics. They don't. Yet somehow, 4 years later, we're still the internet boogeyman. That's kind of funny to me, because people still believe it. I guess if a lie is repeated enough times, eventually it's true. Isn't it funny that the leftists say that it's all alt-right Nazis, but they're the ones out there regurgitating Goebbels? Food for fucking thought. Anyway, if you've made it this far into this podcast, into this episode, and you want to comment below, that'd be fantastic. Let's go the word of the day. I don't even have a word of the day. I just the word fuck it. The word of the day is GamerGate. Write that in the chat so I know you made it this far. Leave your comments below, and I will. This podcast is going to eventually make its way up to iTunes. It is actually up on iTunes right now. A couple episodes are up, so I might you can get it on the go that way too. Anyway, my name is Matt Jarbo. This has been whatever. I will talk to you guys whenever, and have yourself a great day, and peace out.